ISO 9001 2015 quality management systems, how to implement them, what you need to focus on, what you need to create, what you need to implement, what you need to train all of your people on to help your quality management system help your organization win government tenders, improve processes, improve procedures, improve the outcomes of your organization. Hey, my name's Kobe Simon. I'm the CEO here at Best Practice. And in this video, I'm going to be going through and talking to you about the 10 most popular questions with regards to ISO 9001 2015. Welcome to all our live viewers. We are recording this live. We're recording some audio for the Kobe Simon audio experience. We're recording live streaming for LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you are watching this after the recording, please make sure you let me know where you are watching from and what your challenges might be in the questions below. Welcome to episode 1 of our new format here at Best Practice, which is Ask Best Practice. We're going through today the top 10 questions, and we're going to start with a format where we start going through a new format of questions and a Q&A to get you guys asking more questions, get you guys specifically focused on your projects, and get the value out of me that you guys need to keep you guys moving forward on the work that you're doing in your organizations. It's also going to give you the opportunity to ask me questions that I can answer, that you can then share the videos and share the content out with your team. So if there is a question that your team is asking, there's a challenge that you've got in your organization, in this new format on Wednesdays here at Best Practice, we're going to be going through and answering all of your questions. So I've got Bella here in the studio with me. I've got Cam helping behind the camera. I've got Daniel recording questions. We're going to splinter off these videos for you guys. So the live stream today, we are just going to go through and answer these questions. We've got some questions that have come in. We've got about 100 people that have registered for this live event, which is excellent. I'm going to get to all of your questions. Luke is just in the process right now of setting up a dashboard for me so I can see everybody's comments. I find it absolutely fascinating, and it really does help me if you guys can let me know where you are watching from. So if you are live on LinkedIn or if you are live on YouTube, please jump on the comments, or if you're live on Facebook, jump on the comments, even if you're watching the recording, and let me know where you are watching from. Let me know your organization, let me know your city or town, the place in the world that you're watching from, and I'll give you guys a shout out. So it is a good opportunity to network. You guys are all interested in a very similar topic. You're all interested in following best practice, and it's a good opportunity to network and start meeting people and start joining in on the conversation. You've all got very similar challenges. You're going to be at different places on your journey. And there's an ecosystem of about 14,000 people now in the Best Practice Online Training Academy. If you haven't checked out the great courses that we have online, specifically we've got an ISO 9001 course that goes through all the elements of the standard. We've got an ISO 9001 course that helps you implement the system. You can purchase hard copies of the ISO 9001 standard here from Best Practice. We have them available in our online store. So if you haven't got a copy of ISO 9001 2015, in this instance, ignore the ASNZS. This is just a local edition for here in Australia. It's ISO 9001 2015. If you haven't got a hard copy of the standard, you can order that from the online store here at Best Practice. There's also obviously that great course. So if you are somebody that's new on the journey, or if you're somebody that's well established on your journey, it's not a bad idea to jump on and purchase one of those online courses that's going to help you through those challenges you've got. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the 10 most popular questions, the 10 most asked questions as they relate to ISO 9001 2015 in the world. So we've been doing some search around Google, and we've got the Google Analytics for what are the things that people ask the most often. They are going to be questions that you probably asked yourself at some point in time, so I'm going to cover those for you. Luke has almost got my dashboard set up for me so I can see everyone's comments. So now's your opportunity to jump on the comments. Hey Tom, thanks for joining us. Go and check out ZenCorp Construction. So Tom Vanya's now at ZenCorp Construction. Go and check that out. Maybe you want to tag your own company in the comments there, Tom, if you guys have got a company page on LinkedIn. Good opportunity for everybody to go and check out Tom's. And I haven't quite got the comments there on YouTube just yet, but if you are watching live on YouTube, I can't quite see how many people we've got yet. Actually, good morning, Stan. Good to talk to you this morning. I think that was well before 6 a.m. before I went and did my 10-kilometer walk this morning. So good to talk to you this morning. Ash, thank you once again for joining us. And Ava, good to have you guys all on live this morning. So if you guys have got specific questions, go right ahead. So this is episode 1 of our new format. This is the Q&A show here at Best Practice. It's about giving you guys as much value as possible. Our live streams that we do on Thursday and other days in the week, I'll be choosing the topics, but in this particular one, we are going to be covering. Jacob, thank you very much. You like our new logo? So this is our new bestpractice.biz. If you look really closely, it's everything from A to Z. So that's pretty clever in the cycle of continual improvement. So we've still got the traditional best practice logos here, so that's still concurrent, and obviously our certification marks there for you guys that haven't seen them. But this is the new Best Practice Biz logo, and also if you want to check that out, that's our new website. So we've been running it for a couple of months. The new bestpractice.biz website is specifically focused on newsfeed. So when you go to bestpractice.biz, the first things you'll see is our newsfeed. There's 3 or 4 blog articles going up every single day. There's obviously the video feed. So that's the most important thing, is that website is a resource for you guys to see what we're finding and reporting on globally. So we've got one complicated question from one of our audience, from you guys. I'll cover that one last. Bella's going to get in. She's going to ask me the questions. We're going to go through them. And then over the next couple of weeks, if you guys have got specific questions, you can email them in. We're going to be covering them in this Ask Best Practice show. So this is episode 1. We are going to do a quick episode 2 tomorrow. We're going to be doing ISO 14001 tomorrow and covering the top 10 most popular questions there. And then next week, we'll just get into 1 per week as we go through episode 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll see how far we can get into perpetuity. Bella, fire away.
Hi, Kobe. So what does ISO 9001 mean?
ISO 9001 means, there's a couple of answers to this question. It is obviously the most popular question on the planet. ISO 9001 is a number. There it is right there. It's the number of the international standard for a quality management system. So this is a system that's all about managing quality in your organization. It does get the system itself, or the standard itself, does get very technical. But what you can try to position this idea in your head that it gives boundaries to actually how to set up and run a company to actually deliver a good customer experience. So it's all about actually the framework, the standard, the guideline, if you like, the skeleton of systems and processes and concepts and ideas, the movement of data and the decision making that happens inside an organization to constantly improve your customer's experience. So the thing that I've talked about lots over time is setting up a management system that helps you deliver the promises you make to your customers. So the very first thing, if you're thinking about ISO 9001, or even if you've got an ISO 9001 management system, it has to be focused on specifically the promises you make to your customers, the customer experience. But I see too often the biggest mistake that people make, and I've even got a question about it from one of our audience that I'm going to answer after these 10 questions, is that people get all caught up in the complexity of the process approach and risk-based thinking and plan, do, check, act, and I need policies and procedures and systems and all that crazy stuff. But we forget our poor old customer. It's our customer and it's revenue from our customers that keeps our organization alive. Even if you're a not-for-profit or you're a government organization, it's your funding body, it's your stakeholders. This management system is all about providing a great working experience with your stakeholders. It's about blending and melting together all the stakeholder requirements and actually continuing to focus on delivering an outcome to those people. So we want to be focusing on what are the promises that you make to the marketplace and specifically your customers. What are the implied promises you make, the industry standards, guidelines, rules, contracts you need to comply with. You want to bring those things to the top of the conversation. I'll get to where to start later on in this presentation in terms of the first thing that you need to work on, but I'll give away a quick hack or a quick insight. You have to start with management review. Don't start with writing policies and procedures and looking at what you've got and looking at quality management system. Just start with the management review section of the standard. Start saying in that session, like getting the right top management people together and saying, what is the customer experience that we want to deliver? What are the promises that we are making? Then you can go away as a team and you can ensure that the different team members in your organization across the tens of thousands of people, if you have hundreds, tens or hundreds of thousands of staff in your organization, and start saying, our job as managers is really simple. It's motivate and train. And the quality management system is all about helping you train people and helping you monitor people and helping you motivate people so that you can deliver that outcome to your customers. So what does ISO 9001 mean? It's an international standard. ISO stands for the International Organization of Standardization. I know it's in the wrong order, but it's the International Organization of Standardization, and 9001 is the number of the standard that deals with quality management systems and the requirements of those systems. Thank you. Next question.
Why is ISO 9001 important?
So the question is, second most popular question on the planet is, why is ISO 9001 important? A lot of people obviously Google that, and then Google is saying that's a really common question that people Google. I guess it's important, and they're saying, why is it important? A lot of organizations put it into their specifications for their suppliers. So it's predominantly focused on supply chain management, and it's focused on potentially you found out about it because one of your customers asked you to implement that system or report on whether you've got certification or accreditation to that system, and or you're in procurement and you're asking your suppliers to have it. So it's either you're a supplier to an organization or it's for your suppliers. And it's important because it gives that framework that I've just talked about, but it gives a level of standardization. And so you can actually understand the expectation that your customer has. If your customer is saying, we want you to have ISO 9001, then you can understand that any of the suppliers, particularly if you've then got competitors, that you've all got a similar system in place. The very early origins of this system were around complaints handling. Organizations, particularly government organizations, wanted to know that there was a complaints handling system in place, and if they were a government department, they had some kind of process that they could send a complaint to you, and that you would have a process of investigation, fixing the problem, and then also working on improvements in your organization to prevent the problem. A lot of what we talk about in ISO 9001 is about prevention. So it's about identifying issues and fixing them, which we're very good at. Most organizations we work with, very good at fixing problems. What you're not very good at, and this is most organizations, about 70% of organizations, not very good at really the preventative steps, which is how do we prevent this happening in the future. Jacob, I see your comment there. Biggest mistakes you've seen in attempting integrated management with ISO 9001. I'll get to that question. I'll cover your question there, Jacob, at the end. Thanks for asking it. So if you guys have got questions, if you've got specific things you want to talk about, comment on YouTube, comment on LinkedIn, if wherever you're watching live in the comments. I can see the YouTube and the LinkedIn comments live right now, so jump on and ask me those. On YouTube, Ashley Bauman, ProTech Australia, great construction company located in Sydney, but does work around Sydney and around Australia. Stan Wall, Lifeguarding Services Australia. If you guys want to drop links to your websites in the comments there on YouTube, please go ahead and do that. So you guys can work out all the different organizations that are working with best practice and do a little bit of networking together. Okay, next question.
What is the difference between ISO 9000 and ISO 9001?
Okay, what's the difference? The question is, what's the difference between ISO 9000 and ISO 9001? ISO 9001 is the dictionary. It's the terms and definitions, and ISO 9001 is the specification. It's like the to-do list to follow. So over in the dictionary, just like legal contracts, last night I was reading a deed of release for some legal proceedings I've been involved in, and at the very beginning of that deed of release was a set of definitions. So ISO 9000 and 9001 is written in exactly the same way. So 9000 is the definitions, the terms and definitions, so that people can understand what we're talking about, and ISO 9001 is the to-do list, the specification to follow. Next question.
How do I become ISO 9001 certified?
That's a great question. That's what we do right here at Best Practice. The question is, how do I become ISO 9001 certified? ISO 9001, it's the really basic steps are get a copy of the standard and read it. Once you're reading a copy of that standard, it's important to understand what the standard is asking you to do. The steps to getting certified to ISO 9001 or accredited or registered, there's different terms around the world. There's certification here in Australia, for example. There's accreditation in other parts of the world. In the US and North America, they call it a registrar, an ISO 9001 registrar. The steps to go through are ensuring that your organization follows and implements the requirements of the standard, and following and being aware of it yourself. Then you can make application to a registrar or a certification company, and that's what Best Practice does here. One of our services is we are an ISO 9001 certification company or accreditation company or registrar, whichever term you'd like to use. And then what you do is you make a submission to the organization that you choose. I'd hope that you'd choose Best Practice. You can make a submission to us of your management system. What you're telling us, or the claim that you're making is, you're making a claim, we have a quality management system in place that follows the intent of the standard. I understand how our system follows the standard. You show us that system, and then you show us how you do business. You say, we do business following the intent. Keyword is intent. We do business following the intent of ISO 9001. What our team will do is, for initial certification or registrar or registration or accreditation, we'll do a first review, which we'll have a conversation and a meeting with you, and we'll look at your system. We call that a stage 1. And then once we've reviewed that and said, yes, actually, you've got everything that you need to have in place, we'll move to a second stage, like a test, if you like, where you show us how you use your management system, and we will see that you run your business in accordance with the intent and follow the principles of ISO 9001. Then we'll work with you if there are any gaps, and we'll try and educate you around what the intent is of the standard. And then basically we can sign you off and give you a certification. You'll then need to have surveillance assessments or visits, registration visits, if you like, on a quarterly, 6 monthly, or annual basis over a 3-yearly period. You get a certificate, and that certificate's issued for 3 years. You need to renew it every 3 years. So I was working with a client yesterday talking about the renewal. They're up to their 3rd renewal, so they've been going 9 years with their ISO 9001 certification. And so we're basically talking about the renewal, and then they'll go into their next phase. Okay, next question.
How long does it take to become ISO 9001 certified?
How long does it take to become ISO 9001 certified? Every organization is a little bit different, but there are some generic steps. The first step is to understand the standard, check whether you've implemented any parts of the standard, and most organizations do broadly follow the intent of the standard. Most organizations that have been around for a little while, like a couple of years, and are successful, generally just automatically do some of the intent of the standard. I'm not answering the question. The question is, how long does it take to become ISO 9001 certified? How long is a piece of string? Piece of string can be any length. It really depends on how much time and energy and your deadlines that you want to put into this. If you want to move quickly and you want to get ISO 9001 certified quickly, I would recommend engaging some professional support, doing some training courses with Best Practice, working with Best Practice coaches to help you understand the intent of the standard and facilitate some training workshops and discovery workshops in your organization, and then helping someone maybe engaging some consultants to help you through the process. I've seen ISO 9001 certification projects run as quickly as 7 days. I've seen ISO 9001 certification projects run as long as 2 years. But I would say that the average organization that we work with here at Best Practice, from the day they call us for a quote to the day they get their certificate, on average, it would be 6 months. Yes, you can do it really, really fast, but you need to have more people working on it and you need to spend more money. But over a 6 monthly period, it's mostly done by somebody inside the organization, and then obviously some external help. Something that is done over a 2-year period might be done all internally in the organization. So it really depends on whether you're an internal or an external outsourced kind of organization. I am more than happy to speak to you one-on-one around your specific circumstances, and I can help you with that. If you want to send me a direct message on LinkedIn, or you want to comment on this video, or you want to connect with us here at Best Practice, you can go to bestpractice.biz to live chat, and then you can give me some more context around your organization, and I can help you to understand how long a project might take in your specific company. Okay, next question.
What are the 7 quality management principles?
7 quality management principles. Let me have a look in the standard and see if I can remember them. So ISO 9001 talks about 7 quality management principles. I'm just going to try and comment on those. If you are watching live, you might like to get ahead of me. So if you know what these 7 quality management principles are, please go ahead and start commenting in the comments on YouTube if you're somebody who's been around this for a while. obviously what I talked about with starting a quality management system a couple of questions ago was we talked about focusing on the customer. We talked about what are the promises that you make to your customer. So quality management principle number 1 is customer focus. So when you're developing your management system, a lot of people ask me, where do I start? You start with customer focus. Quality management principle number 2 is about leadership. So what we want to be starting to understand is we want to get leadership engagement. We want leadership involvement. So the second thing that you want to be working on is leadership. And I talk about that a lot. We're saying start with management review. If you're starting the implementation of a quality management system following ISO 9001, 2015, start with management review and start with engaging leadership. Point number 3, or quality management principle number 3, is engagement of people. Our job as managers, we only really have one job, and this is documented. Andrew Grove wrote about this in his book, High Output Management. He talks about, as a manager, you've really only got one job. It is to motivate and train people. And so quality management principle number 3 is engagement of people. And we engage people. So we bring them and we say, hey, what do you guys need to do to ensure we deliver our promises to our customers? And what processes do we need to follow? What tasks do we need to do? What do we need to remember? What do we need to ensure we avoid? What mistakes do we, have we learned from that we need to avoid? So by engaging our people and saying, hey, what do we need to do? Then you can actually have everybody focused, with customer focus and engaging people. Instead of pointing the finger and saying you need to do this or you should do this, we can say, hey, what do we need to do as a team? Quality principle number 4 is a process approach, starting to think how your customer moves all the way through your organization, through the steps of your flow, if you like, from receiving some initial advertising or marketing, to engaging with you to find out about your product or service, to starting the commercial transaction and discussions, to come to an agreement, to go through the process and say, hey, we want to do business together, doing business together, and then obviously receiving the service. So let me just have a quick look at a couple of comments that popped up. Process approach, evidence-based decision making. Thank you, Jarrett, on YouTube. The system becomes more effective with engaged leadership and finding a quality champion. Stan Wall, I absolutely agree with you, seeing that up there on LinkedIn. So the next one is obviously, I talked about process approach. The next quality management principle is improvement. Something we're all about here at Best Practice is the constant business improvement cycle of plan, do, check, act. And the whole goal here is to measure and monitor your performance and then start saying, okay, what can we do to improve? The next one, which has just come up there in the comments, thank you, Jarrett Rich there on YouTube. Thank you for your comments there. Evidence-based decision making. In the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, it's right there on the shelf, he talks about the Stockdale paradox. He interviewed Colonel Stockdale after being in a prisoner of war camp in World War II, and it's worth reading that case study in Good to Great. The Stockdale paradox is about confronting the brutal facts while still being an optimist. So it's not about being delusionally optimistic, it's about confronting the brutal facts of the situation, which is fact-based decision-making or evidence-based decision-making using data, using monitoring and measurement. ISO 9001 2015 focuses in on improvement. There's an improvement section of the standard, but it talks about monitoring and measurement. It talks about performance over time graphs. It talks about data. It talks about objectives and targets. The logos here at Best Practice are graphs. They are performance over time graphs showing improvement. And it is that fact-based, evidence-based decision-making so that you can use the numbers instead of, being I talk about it a lot. Don't be a focus group of one or an echo chamber in your own head. Actually go and look at the data and see what the data says and confront the brutal facts. The final one, number 7, is all about relationship management. So quality principle number 7 is relationship management, and it's all about your customer relationships and your customer focus, but obviously your supplier relationships, your stakeholder relationships, your regulator relationships, and good quality relationship management, frequent communications, transparent communications. You're all going to be able to work together to build a great brand. Okay. Next question.
What are the ISO 9001 requirements?
ISO 9001 requirements are in this standard. So the question is, what are the ISO 9001 requirements? The ISO 9001 requirements are in this ISO standard. This is the book, this is the document, ISO 9001 2015. I'll quickly take you through the sections. So all of the requirements have a shall. says what the organization shall do, but I'll quickly cover off the broader headings. It's about establishing the context of the organization so you know which part of the organization you're going to work on putting an improvement management system into. It talks about leadership, it talks about planning, it talks about support, which is resources. In the context of resources, obviously because of the involvement of people, it talks about competence, awareness, communication. It talks about what information needs to be documented. In this version of the standard, it is a lot less. You need to document less. So it's a lot less work in terms of documenting things than we needed to do in the past. It talks about operations and operational control. Then it goes on to talk about a performance evaluation and monitoring, measurement, management review, internal audits, those sorts of things. So those are the requirements, and the final section of the standard is all about improvement and how do we actually close that loop on improvement. Yes, we can talk about the things we need to improve, but how do we keep pushing on to implement those improvements and then measure our success and how our improvements, the effectiveness of our improvements. Excellent. Next question.
What are the benefits of ISO 9001?
The benefits of ISO 9001. Now, ISO 9001 has a great little business case right at the beginning, which it talks about, and I'm going to talk about this. It talks about the potential benefits to an organization of implementing a quality management system. So the benefits of ISO 9001 are obviously lots. You can see from what we've talked about already, there's some great responses. But what the standard talks about is the ability to consistently provide products and services that meet customer and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. Let's just talk about customers. Customers are looking for something on time, on budget, and to the level of quality they expect. So you can say, well, those three things, what are our objectives around that? What's the quality expectation of the customer? What's the time expectation of the customer? What's the price expectation of the customer? So a quality management system is all about helping you to consistently provide products and services that meet that customer expectation and also their requirement and anything else that's applicable from a statutory and regulatory perspective. So any laws and contractual requirements. The next potential benefit is that you get to facilitate opportunities to enhance your customer satisfaction. So by putting a system in place, you can start to say, okay, what could we do in our organization to really blow our customers away so they absolutely love what we're doing and they tell everybody about us? So that is the one thing that I see is lacking in most of the work that you guys do, is you're not using your quality management system, or the biggest opportunity for you is to use your quality management system and your management review to ask the question, what can we do to really improve our customers' experience? What can we do to really, have a great buying experience from a customer? What can we do to really ramp that up so that they really love it? And then put a measurement system in place. So I would recommend implementing Net Promoter Score to track your customer's experience. So then you can start to drive that score up. What do we need to do to improve our Net Promoter Score, or NPS? Another benefit helps you to address risks and opportunities associated with your organization. So it helps you to have a framework in place to identify, in thinking about the next 12 weeks, what could go wrong. In thinking about the next 12 weeks, what do we want to achieve? And so having a system in place that really pushes you to identify what you want to achieve in a quarter, and then also what could go wrong in a quarter, and manage both those things. Keep you focused on your objectives so you hit your goals, and keep you focused on the things that could go wrong so you minimize any collateral damage. It's about having a robust system to put that in place. The ability to demonstrate you obviously follow ISO 9001. That's one of the core benefits. You can put it in place, you can get certified, and you can use this amazing reg logo up the top here. You can put that on your business. You can put it on your business cards, you can put it on your website, you can put it on your vehicles, you can put it on your tenders. You can show your customers that you have a system in place. That best practice logo up there, that's the best one in the world that you can get. It's from us here at Best Practice. You can come here and you can get certified with us, and you can show people around the world that is the world standard. That Best Practice logo right there, the Best Practice certification, ISO 9001 Quality Management System logo, is the global benchmark for ISO 9001 Best Practice around the world. Okay, that's it for benefits. Thank you. That was a great question. What's the next one?
What is the cost of ISO 9001?
What is the cost of ISO 9001? This is question number 9 in our 10-set series of questions that help you with ISO 9001. And the question is, what is the cost of ISO 9001? That is a great question. Cost for ISO 9001 is predicated, I'm getting smiles from the back of our gallery here. Cost for ISO 9001 is predicated on a number of things. there is a risk assessment for your organization. So it will be dependent on your industry. It will be dependent on risks associated with impact on your customers and potential damage to your brand out in the marketplace. And obviously also on the number of sites you have and the headcount that you have in your organization. Now, we have a really cool calculator available on the Best Practice website. We'll put a link in the comments below this video to the ISO 9001 and ISO standard certification cost calculator that the amazing Kelly John Woods has developed here inside Best Practice. So you can get an estimate of cost for ISO 9001 for your organization. You can go straight to that online calculator and you can get a specific cost for that project specifically for your organization. Okay, I think we're up to question number 10, last question.
What are the clauses of ISO 9001:2015?
What are the clauses? I touched on those earlier in an earlier question. The clauses are, there are 10 sections. There are 10 sections to ISO 9001. This is the contents page for ISO 9001. There are 10 sections. They start with number 1 is scope, number 2 is normative references, number 3 is terms and definitions, number 4 is context of the organization, number 5 is leadership, number 6 is planning, number 7 is support, number 8 is operations, number 9 is performance evaluation, number 10 is improvement. They're the 10 sections they referred to as clauses, and there are sub-clauses to the standard. I want you to focus, if you're asking questions about clauses of the standard, I want you to focus more on the intent of the standard. The intent of the standard is setting up processes and systems and habits and routines in your organization to keep improving your customers' experience. Your quality management system is about focusing on your customers' experience and your stakeholders' experience from your organization and helping people understand what they need to do, helping your team to be motivated, helping your team to be trained, and helping your team to deliver those amazing experiences that you promise your customers or your stakeholders in your organization. Okay, thank you, Bella. That's 10 questions. This has been episode 1 of the Best Practice question show that we've got here at Best Practice. Now, if I could have that sheet of paper, we have got some audience questions. So I'll just deal with the comments on LinkedIn first. The biggest mistakes you've seen in attempting integrated management with ISO 9001. That's a question from Jacob Horn there on LinkedIn. The biggest mistake that I have seen is that particularly integrating 9001, say with a safety management system or occupational health and safety or workplace health and safety, is I often see that safety actually dominates the conversation. And, you know, in a time of political correctness, people want to have a conversation about improving the customer experience or profit or revenue. But if OH&S is involved, it typically dominates the conversation. So it is very important to make sure that rather than setting up, and I think a labeling mistake, rather than talking internally in your business about let's have a quality management meeting, if you said, let's have a meeting to discuss how we can improve the customer's experience, it's the same intent and you're going to get more people's attention in the organization. So the biggest mistake I would say is try not to use the terminology and the lingo and the words from the standard. Try to just use generic terminology. The ISO 9001 system, and I just want to reinforce this for you, Jacob, is all about improving the customer's experience. So let's have a customer focus meeting. Let's have a customer experience improvement meeting or team discussion about what we can do, and then we can talk about how we can implement those things. They'd be the two biggest mistakes, is letting safety take over and using too much terminology. Let me just have a look across there on YouTube. Jarrett Rich, thank you for your comment. I think one benefit for the employees, the inter-process between peers will have more clear target and expectations for the input and output. That's correct. It is important to be making sure that you are focusing on the customer's experience, and then, you know, understanding your job as a manager is to motivate and train, and that's your involvement. So this whole quality management system thing is about helping you guys to motivate and train and then monitor and measure the organization. Jake H, good to have you here from Long Beach, California. So we've got people again from all over the world. It's great to have you guys coming on board here from all different places. Lots of people here from Australia, and obviously lots of people here from other parts of the world. So good to have you guys online. You're part of this great community of people. You guys are watching obviously live, but this great community of people that we've built up to 14,000 people now in the online training academy with Best Practice. I'm going to deal with Rowan Pellizer, his question. He sent that in via email in preparation for this session. I want to encourage you guys to do that. So sending your email if we're sending out a notification that we're going to go live and we're going to have a Q&A, this is episode 1. As we get to episode 2, I'm going to cover some of the most popular questions on a couple of topics so you guys can understand them. Then you guys are going to start sending me more questions, and I'm going to be helping you with your project. So anything you need help with on anything business related, anything, staff related, people related, data process improvement related, middle management related, meeting related, how to train people, how to motivate people, anything personal development wise from your perspective, we're going to cover those more as we go. I'll be covering stuff on marketing, on sales. We're going to do a marketing and sales focus next week. So we're doing, obviously, one of our most popular topics is ISO 9001. We always get a good crowd for this particular topic, but we're going to be covering more topics on sales and marketing and helping your organization to really grow. We can't do quality management and ignore marketing. We can't do quality management and ignore sales. So I want you guys to be leaning into those subjects and coming online and asking me questions. And I want to help you with those parallel competencies. Understand marketing and what the context of marketing and sales and selling and setting expectations so that you can bring that into your management systems to help your organizations grow and improve. Okay, let me deal with this question. So a little bit of context. ISO 9001 is based on the principles of quality management and the 3 pillars of process approach, plan, do, check, act, and risk-based thinking. Yes, that's correct. The question is, it's about getting audited. When the auditee sees a quality management system process that mentions some vague step in a process and there is evidence that is not actioned in every single way possible, then is this a non-compliance? Technically, it's a non-compliance, but I don't want you to be worrying about that. It is, what I would call that is business as imagined. What we do find very often is that someone will sit in an office and document steps for a procedure, but they're kind of making it up in their own mind. It's business as imagined. It's not actually the process that's happening. So the non-compliance is not on the process or the person. It's on this document or policy or procedure that's been created. It's not flexible and dynamic for the organization. It's not helping the organization create an amazing customer experience. So the first question I would say is, why do we have it? Can we delete it and put it in the bin? Because we want as long as that person, the auditee, if you like, as long as that person is focused on the customer experience, they're aware of the customer requirements, they're aware of their part in a process in terms of actually helping the organization deliver its products and services, then that's all we need. We need to know that people are well trained, they're competent, and they're able to deliver this. And a policy or a process is a supportive mechanism. It's not a rule book. And I need you guys to understand that. So yes, I don't want you to get all hung up on non-compliance. I want you to be focusing on what we can do to help people. Just like a recipe book, I use the analogy all the time of cooking a chocolate cake. If we want to cook an amazing chocolate cake, the first thing we might do is go and do a Google search and find a recipe. We're going to get 4 or 5 different recipes. So it's about understanding there's always different ways to do a task between different organizations, but there's always different ways to do a task inside your organization. So I would be doing a deeper investigation on this particular question. I would be saying, what is it that we're trying to achieve? What are we measuring? What are the important metrics for the outcome? And then is that process delivering an outcome? So the process where somebody missed some steps, did they still deliver the target or the objective? And if the answer to the question is yes, then no, it's not a non-compliance. Next question, what if the process is the capture of customer complaints? Specifically, if the process governing how complaints are captured does not mention every possible way a complaint could enter the business, and the auditor sees that information can be interpreted as a complaint is not resourced and addressed, then is this a failure to meet the ISO 9001 principle or requirement? Absolutely not. I think it's important that we would capture as a communication process. Again, I don't want you to get too hung up on a documented process. We are spending too much time documenting processes and not enough time on saying, hey, this is a risk for the organization. So if your auditor is focusing on your processes, if your auditor is focusing on the nitty-gritty of your processes and the auditor's not focusing on how you actually handle inquiries by your customers and how you use them to improve your customers' experience, the auditor is missing the point. So this is a really important point for you guys. Like, whether you're auditors watching this, whether you are people who are being audited, don't assume that the auditors you have are 5-star. In fact, Most of the auditors out there, let's say 80% of the auditors out there, are absolutely hopeless. And it is a constant battle to train people. So what I want you to understand is never assume that this person is absolutely right. They're trying to establish how you follow the intent of the standard and that your objective is to improve the customer's experience. So there's an assumption here in this question that this auditor knows the right interpretation. There are hundreds of interpretations of the standard, but as long as everybody is focusing on the same objective, which is to improve the customer experience, then I would be suggesting as an auditor, I'm saying, can you guys show me all the ways that you capture customer communication? And we want to make sure we don't miss any. So how do you guys ensure that you don't miss any communications? And that's what this question's all about. Then the organization can say, well, hey, this is all the ways that we work to make sure we don't miss anything. And then I might say, well, how do we make sure, what process do we use in the business to ensure everybody knows not to miss a customer complaint? And one way of dealing with that would be, well, we've got a procedure, but then I'll say it's great to have a procedure, but how do you train people? How do you follow up? How do you monitor people? How do you check that you haven't missed any? So that's something to consider. Okay, last question. So what is the correct way for an auditor to interpret messy situations like this? I think the correct way for an auditor to interpret messy situations like this is to keep an open mind. It's about what is the objective, what is the intent that the organization is trying to achieve, rather than stepping down into the nitty-gritty of how something must be done and trying to micromanage the situation. Okay, so a couple more comments there. Fernando, how to convince small companies to acquire ISO 9001 as far as they are happy with the way they are working, but the idea is to bring them to a formal way of work. Give me a tip. Okay, so my tip is really simple, Fernando, for you. Your script is what process. So this is your script. I want you to say this out loud to people that you're talking to. You can say to a small business, what processes do you guys implement to continue to look at your customer experience and work out ways to continue to improve your customer's experience? And that's a really great tip. And then you can start to put in a small quality management system, not the full weight of ISO 9001. And I would suggest starting with a quarterly management review meeting. That's all you really need to do in terms of building a quality management system and a formal way of work. Formality comes from habits and routines and traditions. It doesn't come from having, I don't want you guys to have this expectation that they need to have huge amounts of policies and procedures and documents, because that will scare them off. We need to bring them along gently, particularly small organizations. So the very first thing that you can implement is highly impactful and very successful, and that is a quarterly strategic planning meeting, which we call management review in the ISO 9001 standard. And you only need to ask 4 questions. The first question is, in thinking about the next 12 weeks, what does success look like? In thinking about the next 12 weeks, what are the goals? What are the objectives and targets that we want to achieve? So when you're writing your quality management system, you know you've got to write objectives and targets. So you can ask that question and then you can write them down. In thinking about the next 12 weeks, what are the objectives and targets we want to achieve? What does success look like? And asking the leaders of a small business those questions, you're going to get their attention. Then they can focus on that. In thinking about the next 12 weeks, what could go wrong? What could prevent us from achieving those goals? What could prevent us from achieving those objectives and targets? That's your risk-based thinking for you guys that are quality management gurus and want to know what ISO 9001 is talking about. So what I want you to be focusing on is that second question. In thinking about the next 12 weeks, what could prevent us from achieving our goals? What could go wrong? In thinking about the last 12 weeks, what prevented us from achieving our goals? What went wrong? What went wrong in the last 12 weeks? What were the things that kept us up? And just keeping it really tight and really simple. The final question is, and what are we doing about that? So you've got 3 questions. What are our goals, objectives, and targets? What do we want to achieve? What does success look like? What could go wrong and prevent us achieving our objectives and targets and our goals? What went wrong and prevented us in the last quarter from achieving our objectives and targets and our goals? And the final thing is a column right next to it that says, and what are we doing about that? What are we doing to ensure that we achieve our objectives and targets and goals? Right now, I'm anxious that we're not doing enough training. We're not doing enough with our people to help, because we've got people that are on track. We're going really well. We're growing. We're hitting good numbers. Lots of things are going well here at Best Practice. I'm like, well, I need to do more training because I need to start elevating people, because everyone's getting good at what they're doing. But skills will beat passion every day of the week. And so what we're trying to do is hone in and improve everybody's skills and have people working in the area that they're really good, and getting them to grow and get better and better at the things that they want to do. So that is what I would do in a small organization, in a small business, to help you, Fernando. Okay, so any other questions? I think we've done with all of the questions there on LinkedIn, so I can't see any more comments. If you are watching live on LinkedIn, if you have got questions, please ask. If this has been informative and it has been good, it's episode 1 of our questions show here at Best Practice. If you've enjoyed it, hit that like button there on LinkedIn or hit that like button there on YouTube. I appreciate that. We've got 19 people live now, right now, that have come all the way through with us on YouTube. You guys watching live on YouTube, or 20 now. I'll see that number going up and down. If you guys watching there live on YouTube, if you can make comments, I think you do need to be logged in. If you are struggling to make comments on the YouTube platform, drop across onto LinkedIn for the next session. So after we hang up the studio, you guys can move on to LinkedIn. I'd appreciate if you jump across to LinkedIn and find my profile. It's at Kobe Simat on LinkedIn. Hit the follow button, then you will get the notifications when we go live with these sessions live on LinkedIn, and then you can comment and I can see who you are. Okay, otherwise, if this has been a useful video, the team here are going to cut up this video. They're going to take this one. We're going to leave this on the YouTube channel. You can come back to it. You can watch the recording. It's going to stay here on the YouTube channel. It's going to stay here on my live on my profile here on LinkedIn as well. So YouTube and LinkedIn. But the team are going to splinter all this. So they're going to separate out each question, and you will see the answers to each of these questions pop up on the Best Practice YouTube channel. Best Practice YouTube channel's now got over 1,000 videos to help you with your ISO 9001 quality management project. We also have a couple of great training courses that are available on the Best Practice Training Academy. All you do is go to bestpractice.biz/services. You'll see the online training academy, and you can purchase yourself our very special ISO 9001 training course. You can purchase the ISO 9001 hard copy standard. We'll mail that out to you anywhere in the world. You can also purchase the ebook. We have specifically written an ebook to help you with implementing your project. It's the How to Implement a Management System ebook. It's available. It's a PDF there. It's got some videos that go with it. It's a great way, and I think you can usually find it there in the Training Academy for a discount, but I think generally it retails at about $200 US. It's super cheap in terms of all the consulting support that you might get from that. If you're an organization who is looking to get ISO 9001 certification at some point in the future, and that's something that you're considering, you've been tasked with implementing a quality management system, please today reach out to the team, speak to Joseph or speak to Serge, and they can give you some estimates of cost, and they can keep you in touch with the live content and live videos that are coming out from us here at Best Practice. Can you do me a favor? Can you just scroll on the LinkedIn comments so I can just see that last comment? Jacob's just made one there on LinkedIn. Ava, you're very welcome. Fernando, you're very welcome. No problems at all. Any thoughts on PAS 99 for integration? I need to go back and study up on your integration content. Jacob, I would recommend, if you haven't got a copy of our ebook already, I would get a copy of that, because it talks about how to actually set up the management system, which can then deal with the integration. So instead of trying to like force something together, you can sort of start moving forward with an integrated view of your whole management system. So if you haven't got a copy of that ebook already, I'd jump onto bestpractice.biz/training academy and get a copy of that ebook. Vanessa, if you're watching live, or if someone's watching live, maybe they could post a link to that on the LinkedIn feed so that you can get that. But if you go to bestpractice.biz/training academy, I think it's services, and then training academy, you can get a copy of the ebook. So Vanessa's just nodding at me. She's going to actually post a link. Jacob's just inquiring about that. Let me just have a quick look at PAS 99. I'm going to do this live right here in the studio. Okay. Look, there are, I see it. Okay, I see what it is. There are lots of great guidebooks around integration. I think in my experience over the last 20 years working in this industry, they get too technical. So let me just see what this is talking about. I wouldn't worry about. I wouldn't. It talks about, like, I can see what it's talking about, the benefits. Look, it's just a guidebook. I honestly would say that that's probably a waste of money. What I've tried to do with integration is help you. What are the steps to follow to make integration really easy? Management review is the first point. Starting to understand the business plan and the intent for the organization, and then building out strategic planning and a risk-based thinking framework that can capture any part of the business. So you can capture not just quality, safety, environment, or food safety, but you can capture financial, marketing, sales, reputation, corporate citizenship. So it's actually about focusing more on getting alignment of the executive managers in the business, because the executive managers at different parts of the business are part of that risk management framework. And then your integrated management system is going to start building itself out by doing the common element, implementing. So I guess what I'm saying is start with implementation, implementing integrated management review. So implementing those quarterly sprints, that in thinking about the next 12 weeks, what are our objectives and targets? All right, who's responsible for customers? Who's responsible for finance? Who's responsible for the different parts of the business? So I think my thoughts on PAS 99, it's just more technical jargon. Don't get caught up in that. Go for some simple information. I think I've got a couple of integrated management, we definitely have a couple of integrated management system webinars. They're a couple of years old, but they're available in the playlists here on our YouTube channel. The information is still relevant. So if you want to go and have a look at those further back in the playlist. So if you're on our YouTube channel, Best Practice TV on YouTube, go to playlists, and then you can actually see the integrated management system webinar. So if you search inside our channel, integrated management system, you'll see some stuff. So I would start with that first, and then grabbing yourself a copy of that ebook. So, okay. So Vanessa has just. I think there's one more comment there on LinkedIn. If you can get that for me, just a quick scroll. Jacob, that's a good question. So Jacob's question there on LinkedIn, I've seen some companies that just seem to go through the motions of ISO 9001 without buying into it at a cultural level. Why do you think that is? The obstacles to getting it. I think the fundamental obstacle to getting it, and this is not just ISO 9001, but this is lots of things, Jacob, is that we go too technical. So there are lots of industries that go, like accounting industries and legal industries, and we need those professionals to explain the jargon to us. So I think the first thing that happens is we lose, by making people speak our language, by implementing a quality management system in an organization and calling it a quality management system and pointing at people and saying, you need to learn ISO 9001. They're like, I don't need to learn ISO 9001. I'm in marketing. That's your job. So, but you're going into marketing and using their terminology that follows the intent. Hey, marketing, how do you get research from the market as to what our customers want? Hey, marketing, how do you get research from, the future marketplace? What do you see is going to be happening with our customers in the future? Where do you think our customer expectations might change? Where do you think our customers' desires for a different experience might change? Instead of saying, what are the quality expectations of our customers? So I think the first thing, the first obstacle is our industry, and all of us are too inclined to actually go down and talk in 3-letter acronyms and terms and jargon. So what I try to do, and a lot of people give me feedback on this, I try to keep it really simple. I try to actually draw in language from different parts, like from sales or from marketing or from finance, and I try to get those people on board by using their language. So I think the first thing that you can do by when you're implementing an ISO 9001 project is don't use any language from our part of the industry. Don't use any language from the standard, and never use a clause number. Never use a clause number with anyone except a mutual professional in the industry. Start to think about the intent and what are the objectives of a particular part of the standard, and try to use the language of the department you're going into in the business. And I think that's the biggest block. I think that the next block is that for some people, particularly senior managers that did ISO 9001 in the past, they've been involved in big, laboursome projects because the competency of the project personnel was quite low, say 20 years ago, and their experience was quite negative. I'm trying to improve everybody's experience. I'm trying to focus on your experience. I'm trying to focus on the executive leader's experience and try to make it effortless and just let them get on and do business and just gently coach people. So that's why we started our coaching business, Next Practice, to coach people along the journey of improving system, process, customer experience, and the business generally. So taking a business coaching approach. So I think if we can take a business coaching approach and we can and we can just have the objective to achieve the intent of ISO 9001, I think that that's going to help people get it. And then we're kind of like giving an organization the pleasant byproduct of ISO 9001 without them feeling that it's really painful. And that's my ultimate goal, is that you just get that pleasant byproduct. So I think there are a ton of obstacles out there. That's why I'm getting on and I'm doing these videos for you guys. That's why I'm trying to campaign this. I'm hoping that you can share these videos. Like, that's why they're, on the YouTube channel. That's why there's so many videos on the YouTube channel. So you can just copy the link. You can watch one, you like it, you can copy the link, share it, email it out to people in your organization, and you can break down that barrier. So it's one of the reasons why I don't wear a suit. I wear a t-shirt. It's kind of like I'm just trying to make best practice, fun and interesting for most organizations, and trying to make it what could be a dry topic, not dry. It's one of the reasons why we've got one of the most popular YouTube channels on the internet around this particular topic, because I'm trying to make it interesting. And I'm looking at marketing, and I'm looking at sales, and I'm looking at customer experience for our organization, and I want you guys to do the same thing. So we don't want to take it too serious. I think that the other obstacle is, like anything that we're doing here, we're constantly thinking, how do we make it informative, educational, and entertaining? And if you can make your policies and procedures and systems informative, educational, and entertaining, then that's going to break down that obstacle of people getting it, because they're going to actually enjoy being involved instead of it being painful. So I think, I hope that helps. It's been good to have you guys on today. Any other comments there on YouTube? No, I think that's it for YouTube. That's it for LinkedIn. So it really helps me a lot if you guys really enjoyed this presentation. Hit that like button, either on LinkedIn or on YouTube if you're watching this after the event. I really appreciate everybody's time. I know everyone's really, really busy. I hope that I've given you a huge amount of value, and the value I've given you today has by far exceeded the amount of time you've invested. I'm really super keen for you guys to get a return on your investment. So what can you implement today? What's one thing that's memorable from this presentation today that's reminded you of something to implement in your organization? I'd appreciate you appreciate you letting me know in the comments or via a direct message, something that was really useful from this presentation, a tip that you can take away and implement. The key to learning, the most effective way to learn, is to teach other people, to talk about the concepts that you're reading, to talk about the concepts that you're hearing, to talk about the concepts that you're involved in. The more you talk about things, the more you teach other people, the more you learn, and the more you can implement the learning from today's session. And that's the thing that drives me the most, is seeing you guys able to implement these principles, and your customer experience improves for your customers, that your team members' experience improves because you're becoming a better leader, a better manager. That's my vision, that's my mission, that's my passion. Okay, that is just about it. If you are not following us already on Instagram, we have 2 great Instagram pages. Obviously, my page, Kobe Simmet, if you want to see what I'm getting up to in my life personally, see what's going on behind the scenes, what's happening around the office here at Best Practice, or out as we're wandering the suburbs and doing our walks and going out on boats and things like that. If you want to see what's going on generally here at Best Practice, bestpractice.biz has got a couple of great pages, a page on LinkedIn and a page on Instagram, subtly different content. If you really like Facebook, start commenting on our Facebook posts, and we'll see more of you are following us on Facebook, and we can help you out there. Okay, you know how this goes. I appreciate everybody's time. If you don't see us out and about, if you don't see us on the road, if you don't see us out on Instagram, if you don't see us on Facebook, if you don't see us on LinkedIn, you know where you're going to see us? You're going to see us right here next time on Best Practice TV. I appreciate everyone's time. Go well, everybody. Have fun.